Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and management teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, November 17th, 2025, and while I'm really trying not to make a habit out of this, we're going to have to talk about AI and cybersecurity yet again this week, but with a twist. I think before we dive into the specifics of this story, I want to just kind of recognize how emblematic this is of many, if not most, industries right now who are struggling to contextualize how AI might impact them, in what ways, and then careening, I think, from one kind of FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt based article or event to the next. So I'm going to continue my attempts here at tempering the fear, uncertainty, and doubt and focusing on the things that I think matter and I think are within our reach as the AI impacts settle themselves out in the market. But first, what a headline, which is, quote, AI firm claims Chinese spies used its tech to automate cyber attacks, unquote. This article or post seemed to take up almost all of the cyber oxygen in the room last week as AI company Anthropic, makers of Claude, reported that they caught hackers, quote, sponsored by the Chinese government using the tool to perform automated cyber attacks against around 30 global organizations. The actual headline from Anthropic is even a little more sensational, titled, quote, disrupting the first reported AI orchestrated cyber espionage campaign, unquote. So clearly the marketing department had some input on that. The post itself from Anthropic, which I've linked to below, is quite detailed, but essentially lays out exactly the steps that you would take to both bypass the safety protocols baked into a public LLM model and then also to carry out a cyber attack. Anthropic breaks it down into even steps where you go out, you identify the target, you scan for weaknesses, capture credentials, move laterally, elevate privileges, and then ultimately identify and exfiltrate sensitive data. This is the same playbook that all attackers use, so nothing novel there. But the attack itself used a framework that leveraged model context protocol servers, or MCPs, that were developed by a significant amount of human effort and expertise in cyber attacks. I think importantly, the attackers here chose to keep the human in the loop, where the AI would go out, come back, bring back data, and the human would then give other directions. The AI in this case also experienced hallucinations, with the report noting that, quote, Claude frequently overstated findings and occasionally fabricated data during autonomous operations, claiming to have obtained credentials that didn't work or identifying critical discoveries that proved to be publicly available information. This AI hallucination in offensive security context presented challenges for the actor's operational effectiveness, requiring careful validation of all claimed results. This remains an obstacle to fully autonomous cyber attacks, and I think that last sentence is very much worth emphasizing. In fact, in another interview, the lead of Anthropic's threat intelligence team had this to say, quote, I think what's occurring here is that the human operator is able to scale themselves fairly dramatically, Klein said. Quote, we think it would have taken a team of about 10 folks to conduct this sort of work, but you still need a human operator. That's why we said it's not fully automatic or fully agentic. Coverage from Ars Technica notes that, quote, another reason that the results aren't as impressive as they're made out to be, the threat actors, which Anthropic tracks as GTG 1002, apropos of nothing, by the way, targeted at least 30 organizations, including major technology corporations and government agencies. Of those, only, quote, a small number, unquote, of attacks succeeded. And so that in turn raises questions. Even assuming so much human interaction was eliminated from the process, what good is it when the success rate is so low? Would the number of successes have increased if the attackers had used more traditional human-involved methods, unquote? So while it would be tempting to dig into this and try and look at the effectiveness and also peel back the onion onto why this is attributed to Chinese threat actors, there's nothing presented in the paper, and then why Chinese-based threat actors would use an American model in Claude when there are plenty of powerful open source Chinese-built models available to them. I think all of that is less important than pairing the reality of this advancement in orchestration and acceleration of human capabilities with the pace that new vulnerabilities are being discovered and exploited. Another article that did not get as much attention this week was from the Hacker News that claimed that now more than half of all newly discovered vulnerabilities in the CISA KEV catalog, or known exploited vulnerabilities catalog, are weaponized within 48 hours. Pair this with the automation and orchestration that LLMs are offering attackers, and now the real focus for us needs to be ramping up our ability to respond. Can we patch as fast as they can weaponize? Because that's essentially the race condition that we're now all facing today, and the advantage absolutely lies with the attackers. So, as usual here on this show, let's focus on the basics, including inventory, software and hardware, patching capabilities, automatic when you can, and then strong controls around identities, the edges of our network, the intersection points north, south, and east, west, and then thinking about how we can continue to make it harder for these sort of exploits to take down our environments and recover more rapidly when they do. From a fundraising perspective, a very solid week with more than $22.5 billion in newly committed capital, led by Neuberger Berman, who raised $7.3 billion for their fifth private credit fund, and Diameter Capital Partners, who closed their third dislocation fund at $4.5 billion. To close out the AI theme this week, much discussion as well on the market side of those who have sold their entire stake of NVIDIA, including both SoftBank and Peter Thiel. But what that means, I think, is still anybody's guess. So, a reminder, you can find links to all the articles we covered in the comment section below, back issues and written transcripts of these videos at intentionalcyber.com. And now sign up for our monthly newsletter, The Intentional Dispatch, at intentionalcyber.com/newsletter. And we will see you next week for another edition of The Intentional Brief.